You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
What up? Paul Apostolakis, Brad Gerber, Salvatore Guzmano. We are Inside Real Estate. Thank you for all of those that are listening to the show. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. Obviously, you can find us on irepodcast.com, Facebook.com/IRE Podcast. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Spotify, any podcast app that you want to listen to us if you want to listen to us in the car on the way to and from work. And otherwise, please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified. What's up, boys? How are you?
What's going on?
Really excited about today's guest. I wanted this guy on our show for a while. It's Eriks Wright. He's the co-founder of Social House Real Estate Group. Really smart dude. Really built his business on social marketing. So I'm going to be really interested to kind of dig into his past, how he got into real estate. I also want to talk about new construction pullback in March, down 10%. We're going to talk about some, who has equity in their home right now. A lot of people have a ton of equity, and also talk about this forbearance issue that's coming up in June. But first and foremost, let's get Erik on the show. Erik, welcome to the show, dude.
Me.
Come on up. What up, man?
What's going on, fellas? Appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely, dude. So, Erik, you are one of the co-founders of Social House Real Estate Group. I've watched you for years kind of build your business online and through social media, and you've done a really good job kind of building a brand for yourself here locally, and I kind of want to talk to you about that. But more than anything, I want to figure out, how did you get into real estate, right? Nobody ever wakes up, I don't think, I'm going to be a real estate agent. Most people don't. Some do. But why don't you give us kind of your backstory, Erik, how you kind of fell into the real estate game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point, I definitely never anticipated becoming a real estate agent. Went to Madonna University in Livonia. I played baseball there for 4 years and studied business administration and marketing. And my route was more so trying to go get my MBA, go to the consulting world, do management consulting, and then, see where I end up from there. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And that's why I want to do consulting. The exit opportunities typically are pretty advantageous. But while I was actually still in college at Madonna, I was a senior and I was studying for exams, and I came across a Gary Vee video. I'm sure y'all know who he is. And in this video, he was talking about not just marketing, but more so attention, which I guess goes hand in hand with marketing, and where everybody's attention is shifting to. And this is back in 2013. So this was like Facebook just started generating revenue. I think they had just acquired Instagram not too long before that. Snapchat was pretty much obsolete at the point. Right. But nonetheless, he's going over these different avenues of kind of where everybody's attention is shifting to. And he's giving examples like drive down the highway, look at 5 cars around you. Chances are 4 of the drivers are on their phone. If they're not looking at the road, they're sure as hell not paying attention to your billboards. And then from a streaming standpoint, like I'm sure at this point, you guys probably all have, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all these platforms, and they've essentially made commercials obsolete in the traditional sense, where if you are watching the TV or the news or a game or something like that, as soon as a commercial comes on, chances are you're doing one of a few things. You're looking at your phone, computer, or tablet, getting up to get something for yourself or getting something for your kids if you have kids. Yeah. And he kept giving these examples, and it really caught my attention, because that was my background, but even more importantly, he's just really loud, obnoxious, and vulgar. So it just kind of grabbed me. And the more I started listening, I was like, this just makes too much sense. Like, this has to be where, marketing is going in the next 5-10 years. And so I started to teach myself everything that I could, just via YouTube and reading and taking some online courses, things like that. As far as Facebook goes, and then SEO, which is search engine optimization, so getting Google rankings up higher, and did a little bit of consulting for some small tech companies in Detroit while I was still in school, just, pro bono, just to get a little bit of experience, and realized I obviously wasn't going to pay off all my loans doing that. So ended up getting a real job and going to work at a company in Livonia called Velastis Communications, which was quite possibly the opposite of what I had just taught myself. They're one of the biggest direct mail and print mail distributors in the country. And so all the coupons you guys get every day, all the postcards that realtors send out every day, that's basically what they did. And so I was doing all the back end data analytics and targeting for those, and got to see firsthand just how much money these guys were spending on this stuff, how inefficient, how ineffective. The return just wasn't nearly what it should be. And yet I'd go home and I'd see, a pile of these real estate agents postcards on my parents' counter every day when I was living at home right after school, and just get thrown away. And so they kind of triggered me to look into the industry a little bit more. I had a couple buddies that were doing okay, fresh out of school, didn't have a college degree, and they were making $100,000, and I was like, that seems dope. And so I started looking into it, and then I realized that the average agent in Michigan's in their mid 50s, about 54 to 56 years old, and my parents are 59. So it's like my parents, they didn't grow up with an iPhone. They didn't grow up with social media. They didn't grow up with the tech that we have. And so it makes sense why this industry hasn't innovated at all. I always joke with as my business partner, like, real estate's idea of innovation is this, pardon my language, this dumbass electronic lockbox. It's like it solves a problem that didn't exist, because I think they were trying to figure out ways to integrate tech into this industry. But in my opinion, to each their own, but that's just not it. No. And so I basically just saw a big opportunity to take my background in technology and social media, implement it into this industry that's, dominated by people my parents' age, and just try to kind of change the game and ultimately just do more for my sellers, more for my clients. Yeah. Because I think we've gotten into the habit as real estate agents now where all that your traditional real estate agent is doing nowadays is adding your house to the internet.
That's
the MLS automatically ties into realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, all these third-party platforms. As soon as I upload a listing there, it feeds or up to the MLS, it feeds over to all those platforms. And most of these agents kick back and chill, and 50% of them don't even take professional photos. So there was just very little being done for clients. And then I also saw, obviously, on the flip side, how much money these clients were paying these realtors to not do anything. Right. And I saw a big opportunity where the demographic on Facebook has shifted. It's not my little brother who's 20. It's my mom, my dad, my grandma, my aunt, my uncle. Like, those are the people that are on Facebook. So I just saw a good opportunity to leverage that platform to build a business. And, here we are.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting, right? Like, a seller or, I guess a buyer does somehow pay a real estate agent, from the sell side, right? Or the final price negotiated. But, like, you're paying that person the same amount of money, no matter who it is. And it's crazy to me, like, with mortgage, I understand, I guess, to a degree, like, there are different rates, there's different costs, right? But, like, you're paying 3%. Why would you work with someone who can't even take photos?
Right. It's crazy. Eric, our industry, we have similar thoughts on that because I went into social and we did the SEO and we're doing all that stuff. And we kind of had similar thoughts. I was like, I want to be where nobody's at. Right. And at that time, nobody was making like videos every day or thinking about social media and using it to, and you were at the same time kind of doing the same thing. And I always admired that because, a lot of no loan officers at the time were making videos for sure. Very few real estate agents were on social trying to get their name out there. And now it seems like it's really crowded in the social sphere, right? Everybody all of a sudden wants to be on social and make videos and do a little thing, now that TikToks and all that. So now that the field, it's kind of like in our demographic has grown a little bit in the social space. Is it more crowded or is it easier for you to kind of stand out because you're more refined?
So I think there's a couple aspects to it. So I do see more agents getting on social media, which I love, even if they're not with my company, because competition, basically creates awareness, right? If more people are on social media, naturally sellers are now going to say, okay, if I'm going to list my house with somebody, they have to be using this strategy. Right. And I'm confident that 9 times out of 10, since we're, I would say, relatively far ahead of the game in that sense that, they're going to look to us. Yeah. Right. But I think one thing to keep in mind too, is a lot of agents that are using social media, they're not leveraging social media. And what I mean by that, the difference between the two is like, they're using social media in the sense that they're posting stuff on their page and, they're throwing their listings up, but they're not paying for ads. Right. So they're not actually boosting those ads out to people. Right. And the way that social media works, Facebook specifically, is their algorithm. So I have almost 28,000 people that like my page on Facebook.
That's a lot.
But if I were to throw a post up there, probably only about 5,000 to 7,000 of those people would actually see that. Right. Because Facebook wants to incentivize me as a user to actually invest money and spend money to boost that post out. As soon as I spend $100, $50, $200, whatever it is, boom, now I'm in front of 70,000 people, 100,000 people. Yeah. But people are using social media in the sense that they're posting, and I think they're telling people that they're leveraging it, but they're not actually leveraging it in the way they should be. And so while it is getting crowded in the sense that people are starting to use it more, I still think it's very, very underutilized across the industry as far as people actually investing money into social media. And the biggest reason for that is it doesn't happen overnight. You don't start making money in 30 days, right?
Yeah,
that's what I have to stress to our team 24/7 is like, I did this for 8 months and didn't make shit.
Right.
And keep in mind too, I was dead broke. Like I opened 2 credit cards with a $1,500 limit and maxed those boys out in 7-8 months. And thank God I finally started making some money as soon as I ran out of money. So it's like, it's not like you just like jump in and do this for a month and boom, you're making 6 figures or you're making whatever you want to make. It takes time. It takes consistency. You have to do this every single day for 6 months straight minimum before you really start seeing a true, like, I would say snowball return. Like you still may sell a few houses in between there, but the beautiful thing about real estate is margins are so high. So you can go spend $2,000 on Facebook over the course of 5 months and not make a penny. And then you get one 300K buyer and boom, you just made $9,000, so it's like, you have the margin there to do it. It's just most people don't either A, trust themselves, or B, trust the actual process and strategy enough to like actually implement it and do it consistently enough to see the results.
Yeah. So Brad, we talk about this all the time. Like when we started doing the podcast, we had like 12 listens. You know what I mean? It's when you're talking about
12 listens.
That's all we have. Yeah. But Eric, I think you nailed it. I think a lot of people, they'll dabble, right? It's almost like you're in a race and you're only in first gear if you're not utilizing all your tools, right? And some agents will dabble, will make some videos, but they're not really, really committed to doing it consistently over a long period of time to get the results that they need, because it isn't instant gratification in the digital world. You got to earn your real estate in the digital world almost, right? Like you've got to earn that space to be able to have it as a platform to talk to people. You can't just walk in one day, make a couple videos, get 50,000 views, and all of a sudden you're rolling, right? It doesn't work that way.
Right. And I think too, like another piece of this, I think this is a big problem with like entrepreneurs today, especially young people like my age and younger, is people are afraid to fail publicly. Like they always post all their wins on social media and everything to get their likes. And, I think a lot of people start a business just so people can comment and congratulate them on starting a business. And then it fizzles out and nobody asks questions about it. Yeah. But they got that instant gratification of like, oh, dope, I'm an entrepreneur. And then boom, they're back to their 9-to-5 kind of thing. And I think the same thing is true with like using social media, right? If you're using social media, you're obviously getting in front of all your friends, your family, your people that aren't in your circle. And naturally people are going to then, ask, how's it going? How's business? How's that? And so when you're not selling things right away, I think people tend to feel like they're failing because they're not, immediately successful. So they're afraid to even just put themselves out there, to your point. Yeah. When people are making videos, they're afraid what people are going to think about them. And,
I don't look right. I want to re-record it. They get a script, whatever it is, right? They want it to be perfect and they get 50 likes and they feel like it's a success, but it's not really.
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, you just need to realize nobody really cares.
Nobody cares.
Like nobody watching. Half the people aren't even watching your video. The other half, it's like you could look like a complete dumbass, and they don't care.
They don't care.
It's like so just kind of getting past like that concern of what other people think about you. I mean, trust me, I'm the last guy that likes to be in front of a camera. Correct. But at the same time, I understand it helps with your brand, helps with your business. I mean, ultimately, people work with people they like. And that's what social media is great for. Not only can you market the content that you're actually putting out and selling, but you can also market yourself and say, here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I like to do. Here's, my family, my kids, my wife, my husband, etc. To where you can actually put yourself out there and you'll tend to relate to people and they'll know you before they know you. And it makes them more comfortable reaching out to you. So it's vital, but I think people are just afraid to like publicly fail. So they don't necessarily put themselves out there enough to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to do this business. You could do a lot of different things, and not everybody has to utilize social. But in today's evolving world where, you have to be on the digital game, I think, in my opinion, to be able to last the next 10 years, because you'll either you're going to adopt or you're going to get passed, right, at some point, because like guys like you or us are doing this stuff. So,
I mean, the way you just put it, it kind of puts it all into perspective. The digital game. You have to be on the digital game. Just think about everything in your life is all going digital. So if you're not on the digital game, if you take social media out of it and just think about it as digital, everything's going digital. Period. You have to be digital.
And if you don't, you're going to end up like Blockbuster, that you've got a bunch of CDs and tapes that you're trying to play that nobody wants, right? So Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you this, Eric. How deep into the Facebook algorithm have you gotten? Because here's one worry that I always had with social. We personally never used social to drive leads, just because at the mortgage side they were a little bit funkier. We didn't have an actual product; they were low quality for us. But we did it for brand recognition. But when I was working with Facebook, they changed their algorithm. They didn't allow you to target certain people. Your audiences changed. You couldn't go out, especially in real estate, right? They were real leery of that.
Right.
Are you ever worried that you're kind of at the mercy of this platform that could change the way that it works? But I mean, ultimately, they're still for profit, but you just have to adapt to that, right? Or is it something that you just found ways around working on, right? Like, how do you adapt to Facebook's ever-changing algorithm?
There's a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
there.
I mean,
It took you long enough.
Sorry.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I mean, and I play with it all the time. And my business partner, she's like even more so on the side, like where she's like, yo, what if Facebook just goes away?
Right.
Then what? And I don't think that's ever going to happen. Sure. Are they going to continue to regulate, continue to do more things, privacy laws, with regards to actually being able to target people better? Sure. Yeah. But are people ever going to stop using Facebook? I doubt it. No. And I'm maybe naive in a sense, but like I'm confident in my awareness of like what technology is out there and what people are paying attention to where if Facebook did just go away tomorrow, I think I'd be one of the first to figure out where everybody went to. Yeah. And figure out how to leverage that in a conducive manner to the way that we sell houses.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in Facebook's boat than Zillow's. Right. I mean, think of all the people who have their whole entire business, huge teams, even set up on Zillow, and
exactly.
All the reviews are on Zillow.
Yeah. And like I think, I mean, I'm glad you brought up Zillow because I think it's a huge misconception that that's our competitor as real estate agents. I don't think that's true at all. I think that real estate agents in today's industry, they're real competition. And I posted something about this on Facebook like last week or something. It's like the real competitor for real estate agents is just agents that actually do shit for their clients. It's like everybody's gotten in this kind of like lax habit of like not really adding that much value, or the value they do add is very archaic. Like they're doing like little, laminated flyers they throw on their counter and stuff, or just things that aren't truly adding value to their actual client, or they're predominantly marketing their brand rather than the houses. So I think the real competition for real estate agents that are going to see, their 50 mil turn into 40 and 30 and 20, et cetera, are just going to be losing it to people that are actually spending more money on their clients with videos and photos and tours and Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and so on. So I really like Zillow doesn't scare me at all. I mean, especially because the margins, I can't speak to everybody, but like, I just don't think the margins are there with Zillow, that you get so many BS calls and, whereas Facebook, it's all essentially automated, at least within our company, the way that we qualify everybody to where we're just handing off leads to all of our agents and they're either pre-approved or it's a listing appointment, so we're able to do all the back-end qualification via text with just templates that we have that I built out. So we're never having to worry about picking up the phone. We're not spending the time on calls. Everything's done via Messenger. And by the time these leads are even hitting our agents, emails, they're pre-approved or they're
warmed up. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that you chose to create your own leads as opposed to buying Zillow leads, and kind of like what we've done, Sal and Brad. Like we didn't want to buy leads, we wanted to create our own because they're more organic. But that's like talk to me about like the first time, Eric, that like you went on social and you created like 10 leads off of your work. Were you like, holy shit, I can create humans out of thin air? That's how I felt. I was like super excited. I was like, guys, I got a lead. And they were like, all right, dude, whatever. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like I went on the internet and I just picked the person and they came to our thing and they wanted to transact. And I was so excited.
There's an argument to say that we're still buying leads. We're just not buying it from a third party. We're still paying for those leads.
We're paying, but there are organic bit. We're not going to Zillow and we own the data and all that stuff, right? Which there's a lot of value there. But Eric, tell me about the first time you're like, aha, I can do this.
Yeah, it was. Have you guys ever seen that? Like, it's just like an Instagram all over Instagram where it shows our image all over Instagram where you see like the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur where it's like, oh, this is dope, it works. No, this doesn't, it's just like up and down. Yeah. That's kind of how it went the first like year, where it's like I started out getting a bunch of, leads, you could call them, but and then I'd get super excited, and then 99% of them ended up being,
They're shit.
They weren't qualified, they weren't real leads, and so like it just kind of ebbed and flowed for a while. But I kept getting a lot of engagement, I kept reaching a lot of people, I kept getting a lot of comments. Like one of my main strategies, I leave the price off everything, right? Because it incites engagement, it incites people to respond to my ad, and then naturally Facebook's algorithm shows it to more people because it's getting more engagement. Right. So I saw that aspect of it working and just trusted that those leads would start to come in. And now it's to the point where, I'm getting personally like 5 to 10 pre-approvals a week. I'm getting 5 to 10 listing appointments a week. Our agents are starting to see the same thing at scale, relative to how much money they're spending. Yeah. So I don't think there was necessarily like a moment where I was just like, oh, this works. It was more so just kind of like a long process of like just trusting it. And then it started to work a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And then naturally it just snowballed and built up, because the big difference between all these third-party like platforms you can buy leads from relative to Facebook is those third-party platforms are very transactional. And what I mean by that is like they're crowded in the sense that, there's 3 or 4 agents listed on the right side. It's just a matter of whichever one they click. Yep. I don't think 99% of these people even realize who they're clicking on. No, they get a call and I say, hey, it's Erik Wright. And they're like, who? And I'm like, yeah, you just 5 seconds ago just clicked on my name and told me to call you for more info on this house on Zillow. So it's like, you're not building your brand at all there. Whereas Facebook, you're spending a fraction of what you're spending on Zillow, and you're building a brand, even if you're not getting leads directly from that ad. So like, I have people all the time that are like, I see you all the time on Facebook. They've never commented, they've never messaged me, they've never liked my page, they've never done anything, but they see me, they know who I am. And then I get them to they hit me up, for the first time via Facebook Messenger. They call me and they're like, hey, I've been following you on Facebook for 2 years. I've never talked to them before. And they're like, I want to sell my house. Can we sit down and talk?
You built a brand. You built a brand.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a big difference between like advertising and building a brand. Brand takes long. It takes a while to do that.
Right. Like I could stop spending money on Facebook today probably and still sell 100 houses a year. Right. Whereas with Zillow, if you stop paying for those leads, chances are your business is going to go down dramatically.
100%.
Because you're not getting in front of those people anymore, and you weren't really building a brand the entire time either.
It's kind of like billboards. Once you're off the billboards, people kind of forget about you. What I mean? Unfortunately. Exactly. So, yeah, man. So I wanted to get into these topics, and I want to get some of your thought process from a real estate perspective. So, new construction pulled back almost 10% on March. Do you guys see that? I mean, Sal, do you see that as an issue, that like new construction is in this market where we don't have a lot of inventory? Do you see that as a problem?
Yeah. I mean, they should have been building more years ago, right? But I guess kind of is what it is. Here we are, right? And the prices of materials just kind of put that into perspective. I think, the demand is still probably there. People will still pay more for a house,
right?
The builder's not going to eat those costs. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's one part of it. But I mean, I just, I'm curious to see what happens on the other end of this once things start leveling out, like the equity question that you're probably going to.
I'm going to go into the equity thing here in a minute. Yeah. So these are all kind of, but let's go to Erik. Erik, I mean, obviously inventory is a problem in our area. Across the country, it's a problem, right? How are you dealing with the inventory problem right now that you're seeing, and how are you overcoming it?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on the new build thing, I think it's actually more on the builders than it is on home buyers. For example, I mean, I have plenty of clients that want to build right now, and there's just no lots available. Like they're not releasing lots, I think, to Sal's point, because they're afraid of, material costs and availability and, contractors and workers and, things like that, to where they're only releasing 2 lots at a time now instead of 5 or 10,
Correct.
So like there's one builder that I've worked with a lot over the years, and like some of their communities are on a straight lottery system, where like if your buyer wants to get a lot, they have to enter into this like lottery, and every time they release lots, they pick the first 4 names, and if you want it, you want it. If you don't, they go to the next one.
What a business! So what a business!
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't think the builders like this either. I don't think they're doing it because they want to. It's just like
of course they do. They gamified it. Like,
yeah, but
puppet
if they could be selling 10 houses, they'd be selling 10 houses, right?
Yeah.
Instead of 2. And so it's like, I think it's just this big problem that we're experiencing still with like COVID. And I don't think it's going to get any better in the next couple of years. Like, I'm sure that we're still going to be seeing the ripple effect of all this for a while. But I mean, yeah, as far as the inventory goes, I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, I'm probably like 60% listings, 40% buyers. Most of the listings I work with obviously are buying. And the positive part of it is, if you own a house, like I always tell my clients, there's never a great time to buy and sell, because if it's a great time to sell, prices are high.
It's the same thing.
It's not a
It's
great
a
time to
moot
buy,
point.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
But this is, in my opinion, at least, is kind of like this weird anomaly market where it's a great time to move. Because you can maximize what you can sell your place for.
Yeah.
What you're going to get over that value is likely going to offset what you may have to overpay on your new place.
Yeah.
So you're kind of back to zero there. And then you're locking in a 2.7 interest rate or 2.8 interest rate.
Right.
So it's like, it's a great time to move. And so, but the biggest thing, I mean, that it's coming down to is just like the cash on hand and these appraisal waivers and appraisal guarantees and things like that. But I mean, there's only so much you can do, because at the end of the day, it's like, if they don't have the cash, they don't have the cash.
You need a lot of cash right now, it seems like.
Yeah, I think between Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac implementing changes coming soon too, if you're putting minimum down, you have to have offsetting factors. If let's say your debt to income ratio is over 43%, which is on our end quite common. It always seems like the first time buyer is maxing out what they can do. But I think from that building point, like the builder bears the most risk to a degree, right? Like, think of how long that process is. It's 9 months, it's 12 months, it's 14 months, it's a year and a half, depending on the build itself. So like, think of hedging and building into the price all of those material costs, which you might not even need for 6 months down the road.
And imagine if those costs are like a moving target too, right? Because they're not static right now. The cost of building has gone up so much.
Yeah, I'm building a house right now, so I'm feeling it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, inflation's a real thing across the board. So the next topic I wanted to get to is 1 million homes are in forbearance, and they're going to be up in June. That's 2.7% of all mortgages are in forbearance. It's gone down. I don't see these homes they're up in June, but a lot of these properties are going to go back into like their normal mortgage. They're not going to foreclose. The majority of these won't, because these houses have equity. Sal, do you see the forbearance issue being an issue, or do you see it kind of going away?
No, not really, because of the equity portion, right? As long as there's equity, I mean, who's going to foreclose on a home that they could sell tomorrow, right? List it tomorrow and get multiple offers and put more money than they ever could have on that home in their pocket, likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you give that up? So,
yeah, I mean, to give you a stat, it's like 26% a year ago had 50% equity or more in our country. That's up to 32% of homes have 50% equity or more in their house, which is a lot, right? So if you have a lot of equity in your house and you're behind in your payments, worst case scenario, you sell it, right? You're not going to
doing a lot of mortgages for people who bought their first home in like 2017, right? And they're selling now. They put 3% down, like literally like $9,000. They're getting $100,000. Like, it's crazy. I mean,
it is like, crazy. Yeah.
Especially 2017. I mean, everyone kind of thought in their head that they missed the boat, right? Like, that's how I feel like I felt in 2017, 2018. Like, man, I wish I would have bought in 2010, 2009, whatever, right?
That's
like
how I felt.
You did on your condo, Paul, but think what you could have sold that condo for now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the amount of equity that we've built up over the since the crash is crazy, right, Erik? But my question to you, Erik, is how do you help a first time home buyer in this market? Because they're the ones that are getting crushed a little bit. Because if they don't have the equity from their old house to use it, you know what I mean? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all just about setting expectations. Like, I think that's all this business is about, really, is just setting the right expectations for people. And so one of the things that I've been doing, like, say, for example, I have a buyer that they have like not a penny more than what they can bring to the table for their closing costs and their down payment. I've been basically setting the expectation that, hey, we want to avoid multiple offer situations, because just to be blunt, we can't compete, right? So I have this like 5-day rule I've been using for a lot of my buyers, where I just say, hey, let's wait till a home has been listed for 5 days, which isn't that long, but in this market it is, to where once it hits that 5-day threshold, typically at the very least, it's not getting like 10, 15 offers, right?
Correct.
Because why have them continue? Because I think the most exhausting thing for first-time home buyers is walking through a bunch of houses, falling in love with them, and then just realizing that the buyer's given a $30K appraisal guarantee on a $200,000 house. You know, so it's like just setting those expectations to basically tell them, hey, let's wait till it's been on the market for about a week, and then we'll go start looking at them, you know, at those houses specifically, just because at that point they don't have multiple offers. We're going to be able to, at the very least, you know, compete with somebody and maybe give a grand or two appraisal guarantee if need be. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just setting the right expectations for your buyers, making them aware of how this market is. And, you know, if it's a really nice, well-priced house in Livonia for $225K, it's probably going to sell for $250. So if you don't have an extra 10 to 15 grand to at least provide an appraisal guarantee, you know, it's probably not worth looking at it and getting your hopes up, and rather, you know, focus on the homes that maybe need a little bit of work and you can actually add value to, and you're not going to pay $30K over market value. You know, I mean, that's the advice I'd give myself as a, you know, if I was 24 buying my first house, like, why are these people spending $250 on a $210,000 house in, you know, Livonia right now, where it's like, you're never going to be able to move.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, you're so upside down the day one, right?
Yeah.
And then if we have a correction at all, then they're really upside down, right?
Which we will.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I mean, I struggle. I mean, a lot of my clients, you know, some of them, I always tell them, like, there's two numbers I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you what it's worth. I'm going to give you what it's going to take to get it, you know, and then it's up to you to kind of determine, you know, what you want to offer to a certain extent, right? Or what you want to set your max at. One of my advantages, I guess, being like predominantly a listing agent, is I have a really good idea of like what sellers look at in this market, you know, because that's who I work with.
Let's talk about that. Actually, let's talk about that, Eric. What do sellers look for in this market? You know, like when you've got 15 offers, you over ask, you've got appraisal guarantees, you got cash offers, you've got all this stuff, and people are writing letters and doing escalation clauses, right? They're doing everything they can to get these. And so you're getting a lot of good offers. It's not, I bet you, like on a nice listing, you're not getting a lot of bad offers, right? They're going to be all really competitive because they know they have to be. So how, as a listing agent, do you look at all these offers? Do you automatically go for the highest one, or do you look for other nuances that people aren't looking at?
So I always look at the most like guaranteed money, right? So the first thing I look at is the appraisal guarantee. You know, if I have a $200,000 listing and I got an offer and I was confident it was an appraisal around 200, and I got an offer for 250 with no guarantee and an offer for 225 with a 20K guarantee, I'm accepting that 225 offer all day, or at least recommending to my client. Yeah. And so like appraisal guarantee is always number one. And then, you know, free occupancy is another big one, just because that's, you know, could anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 or depending on the price point of just guaranteed cash, because you're living rent free there for 30 to 60 days. So those are the two biggest things that I look at. And then just like, I always ask agents when they write offers on my listings to include something around the inspection, basically just acknowledging that they're not going to ask for any repairs under X amount of dollars, just to kind of give us some more reassurance. They're not going to ask for a bunch of BS after
they're not going to nickel and dime you down at the end,
waste our time.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the three biggest things. I mean, EMD, obviously, not one of the biggest weighted things that I look at least just because there's such a rare occurrence where the seller actually ever retains that. You know, obviously it's important to have it be at least a significant amount for the buyer to where they're not just willing to walk away after 45 days. But I don't weight that super heavily, and kind of all the same too with like down payment. I mean, yeah, obviously I'd prefer a higher down payment, but if somebody's putting down 5% so they can give me a 25K guarantee instead of 20%,
right?
I don't care as long as it's still a conventional mortgage. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily discounting a lower down payment just for the sake of that. I'm looking at all the terms just to figure out, you know, where I think we have the most guaranteed cash.
Now, do you wait? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sal.
So I would think that is probably scrutinized, and obviously, you know, sometimes people can't put down 20% and do the guarantee, right? So they put down 10 or whatever. But like, I would feel like that should be probably scrutinized. If you got someone putting 3% down, right? Like, what type of cash do they have, like, for that guarantee? I mean, they're offering a 15K guarantee. The down payment's $6,000. You know, like, right? It's crazy right now. I'll get purchase agreements on my desk where it's like, you waived the whole appraisal on a 900 square foot house,
and the inspection,
$40,000 over. Like, dude, like, you know, and we figure it out. But and if their agent was good, they explain that. So luckily, I haven't been burned on those yet. But like, I feel like it's real important to talk to your loan officer, because a lot of people think, oh well, whatever. If if I got to guarantee 20 grand, well, I'll just put 3% down of that, right? They don't necessarily understand that 20 grand is on top of your 3% down payment of the lower appraisal.
Yeah, and I always ask for proof of funds too when I do get big guarantees.
It's smart.
But I honestly, like the way interest rates are right now too, it's like it's damn near free to finance a house to an extent, right? You're getting a 2.7% rate, so putting down another extra 10 grand on your house, what's that reduce your payment? $40. So it's like it almost doesn't make sense to put down more than you need to right now because the rates are so low. You can always refinance in the future and get rid of PMI if you need to, but PMI is not even that dramatic to where it's
dude.
worth
PMI is cheap.
The price of money's cheaper and cheaper. I always say if you can put down 5%, that's like the sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree.
The same rate as if you put down 20%.
Yeah. Like I'm building a house right now. I'm putting down 10%. Could I put down 20? Yes, but it's like why? I have a 2.7 rate. So it's like it just didn't make sense. I can make more money investing that than I would save on the flip side by actually putting it down in the house.
Yeah. I put down 1% on my house. Remember that program, Sal?
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah. So
how long ago was that?
I don't know, 4 years ago. There was just there's a specialty.
They did it up till like the end of 2018.
Yeah.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it was a cool program.
I mean,
I got a 2% match, so it was like I put 3% down, but I only put down 1%. They gave me 2% match. It was kind of crazy, and I was
I mean, imagine there's a lot of people who bought homes. We had full 3% concessions. They bought 1% of let's say $250K. They bought a home for $2,500.
Yeah,
and now they've got 50-60 grand equity.
Well, Eric, what's the next evolution? Right, you've kind of done the digital. You've done the social, at least on the you're very active on Facebook. You're going to the SEO world. Are you getting on TikTok? What's the next thing that you're looking at?
I don't think you'll see me on TikTok anytime soon. My business partner Yaz is all over it. I just leave that to her.
Yeah.
And then a lot of our agents, they're on TikTok too. I don't think you'll ever see me on there.
No.
But I mean, my focus now is more so actually on. So like more than anything, I value time, right? And so everything I do in business is trying to figure out how I can get more out of like every hour of my day. Yeah. And the way you can do that is either by delegating to people or building technology. And so what we're really focusing on right now at Social Houses, we're gonna build our own CRM. We're rebuilding our website right now. I'm building a couple apps that are going to be able to be conducive with our business process to essentially automate certain things. So like that's more my focus right now is rebuilding like the technology in real estate. At least for right now, obviously we're always coming up with new ideas how to build our brand and presence on social media and get more business and get more leads. But thankfully we have a great team now internally that basically does that for all of our agents.
Yeah.
And kind of manages all the social media and everything like that. But now one of our main focuses is trying to automate more of the internal processes within our business to make it more efficient and more effective and ultimately give a better experience to our clients. And then, obviously those are different things that we'll be, ultimately offering to other brokerages, other agents trying to sell it, build more of a business on that end. But one thing I do think that's going to be huge in the future, and I haven't started to leverage it the way that I should yet, is Snapchat. I do think that's going to have a lot of practical application. Like you can see, if you add a number in your phone, you can go see if they have Snapchat. Like you can go to add friends and whatever. Yeah. And I'm seeing more and more of my clients who typically are, 30 to 60 years old have Snapchat accounts.
Yeah.
And where Snapchat's going to be really impactful is going to be more on like the branding element of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like I could theoretically like find a wedding venue, right? And create a congratulations to the bride and groom. Congratulations to the bride and groom Snapchat filter, drop a pin on that venue, and then have it sponsored by Social House Group.
Yeah.
To where people aren't necessarily maybe at the time going to even notice Social House Group, but the 3,000 people they're friends with or look at their account, they're going to see that. And it's just building up that brand locally, just organically, because people aren't necessarily, when you're Snapchatting and you're at a concert or you're at an event or you're at something, you just don't want to use the same filter every time. And so people are going to use what's available to them. So you can basically take that and, pop that down on any event really. And it's still super, super cheap. So So from that standpoint, there's a lot of opportunity there. I haven't started utilizing it the way that I should, just because like right now it's, Facebook just works so well. It's like, why spend any money elsewhere until I just have an infinite budget? But yeah, Snapchat's one place that I do want to eventually start to, dive into a little bit further.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So we are at the 3 questions portion of the show, Eric. This is where we ask you 3 random ask questions. Random ask questions, and then have you answer them to the best of your ability. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only bring 3 items, what would they be?
My laptop.
No power.
I don't know, power. Okay, shit.
You're on a deserted island, bro.
So now you got a laptop with nothing to do on it. You can use it for about 3 hours.
He's lost. He's so digital that he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, this is hard. This is hard for me. I would probably just say fuck it and die.
Just drown yourself.
No, I mean, I'd say like a pack of lighters, an axe, and some string so I can get the hell off the island.
All right. So you want off the so Eric, this is one of your worst nightmares, being on a desert island. You want to get off the island or off yourself?
I don't camp. And if there's not Wi-Fi, like, you're not going to find me there.
If you had to eat the same meal for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
I'd have to just go with chicken. There's so much you can do with it. I mean, my heart wanted me to say pizza, but I don't want to be fat as hell.
400 pounds. Yeah.
So probably just chicken. There's a lot you can do with it. I can mix it up, and
he went from pizza to chicken and brown rice.
Yeah, at least live a little bit longer. So I've been eating enough pizza the last 12 months.
Yeah, you guys got a question, Sal, Brad?
If you could be a fly on the wall at any moment in history, right? Like anything in the past that you could kind of just be like the ghost of Christmas past in, what would it be?
Probably the first investor meeting for Facebook.
That would have been interesting. With the Winklevoss win.
Get to go find some money and tap into that early.
Yeah, no shit. Eric, man, listen, dude, I really appreciate you doing the show. I know I've wanted you on the show for some time, and we finally got you on. Can you tell the audience how they can find you or get a hold of you if they need to?
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram predominantly. My Facebook handle is, I think, just Eric Wright Realtor. I got to look at my Instagram one. Hold on. Should probably know that, eh?
Yeah.
Instagram one is Erik ERIK _ social house group. And then, you can always text me. That's what I always prefer is 734-620-4736. But if y'all ever need anything, if you're an agent looking to switch brokerages, or if you're somebody looking to buy or sell a house, hit me up.
How many agents do you have now, Eric?
We're up to probably 25 now, I think.
Oh,
got about 31 or 32 people at the company. So
how many leads are you guys generating a day right now, you think?
Oh God, it's hard to say. I mean, I think we've sold 150 houses year to date as a company.
Yeah.
About half of those are mine, but our agents are all new. So,
Right.
As far as lead gen on a daily basis, probably anywhere from like 15 to 20 leads a day at a minimum. And then we're just handing those off to our guys. So
that's awesome.
And girls.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, Eric, kudos to you for building a really cool company, man. I know that you're always very authentic, which I appreciate. And I'm sure we'll see you around, dude. So thank you for doing the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
No problem,
Eric.
Man. Have a good one.
But
yeah, he's built a good, I admire that guy, because obviously we kind of have the same thought process on marketing a little bit, but he's built a good brand for himself. He really has.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, he does a really good job.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up before we go. So Sal and I and our partner Chad are going to Las Vegas here tomorrow. And so we might not have a show next week. We might not make it back. We'll be back.
Brad, I don't know if I'm going to go. I feel so sick right now.
Yeah, you said you had a fever.
I've been shivering. Yeah, I got like 102 fever right now.
Go see a doctor. We'll go. We need to get you some fluids. We'll get you an IV, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I gotta go.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the show. Wait, I didn't do the exit.
He's gone.
Oh, all right. Well, for those of you that are still listening to the show, unlike Sal, and thank you for listening. If you'd like the show, obviously go to Facebook/IRE Podcast. You can go to irepodcast.com. Anywhere you listen to our podcast app, you can also like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. If you've been listening and you don't like the show, then just please go fuck yourself. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye, Brad.
Thank you.
Are we done? Are we still live?